congratulations from the entire team at Top 1%,
Thank
right?
you so much.
Especially for the verbal part. I mean, that's incredible. So as you can see, all of you, she has scored verbal reasoning 100 percentile, 90 out of 90. Wow, that's amazing. Tanya, can you give us a brief of background about yourself?
Okay. So hi, my name is Tanaya. I currently work as a project manager at Central Square Foundation, which is a nonprofit that works to strengthen public education systems across India, and ensure quality education for every child. Prior to this, I had a brief stint at Ernst& Young, where I worked as a public policy consultant, where I was working on projects with the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Labor and Employment. My educational background is that I have done my bachelor's in economics from Ashoka University, and I have done a one-year postgraduate program in public policy, design, and management from the Indian School of Public Policy. So that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. How did you get into the GMAT preparation? What made you come to this preparation? And
So honestly, I was very clear that I wanted to do a master's. For a while, I was confused about what I wanted to do in my master's, but when I joined CSF, like which is where I work right now, Central Square Foundation, I realized that I absolutely love the development sector, and I really love the social impact space. And I wanted to do something related to those lines. So I was basically split between doing a MPA, a Master's in Public Administration, or doing a MBA with a specialization or a focus in social impact. So from there, I came to trying to see, like, once I did that, I sort of went to see what I needed to do to get to where I want to. And I realized that I need to give either the GMAT or the GRE. And just based on that, I chose the GMAT, um, because I think it is a little more analytical, quant heavy. And I thought that would just be easier to solve. I've always liked doing quant and math in school. So I thought that it would just be a little bit better for me to go that route. And actually, a friend of mine recommended Top One to me. So I didn't even do anything else. I just took this course.
all right. So how long did it take to prep? Can you can you share how your journey has been with respect to the preparation? How long did it take for you to get into
Sure.
the preparation? Yeah.
Yeah, so I did the 6 month self-paced course. I didn't do the live session because I just think with work and everything else, it just worked better when I could do it as and when I could find time. So I started in January of this year. I started the course like literally at the beginning of January this year, and it took me a
First,
while to settle.
first
Yeah,
of January.
2nd of Jan actually.
Oh, all right.
So yeah, it took me a while to settle into it because it had been a little bit of a break from any sort of studying. So it took a while to get into the course of to get into the rigor of it, to sort of understand what's going on, because these questions are not like other competitive exams. They're a little bit different. So I think just to sort of wrap my head around the type of questions and the approach that is needed to actually solve these questions. Yeah, I struggled with quant in the beginning. I saw your videos, and in the beginning I was like, this is really different to what I was expecting.
Okay.
But I think it got easier from there once I sort of got the hang of it, started practicing a lot more. So it took me about a month to like properly settle into the course itself, and like just get like into a more driven state of mind to sort of continue with the prep. So I think that was basically it. Other than that, it was just work commitments and balancing everything. So it took me, I actually completed the whole course in about like 3, 4 months. And after that, I just went on to practicing.
As you said that you liked doing quants earlier, as in maths was your favorite subject. So what is the distinction between what you have read earlier and the preparation that you did? And did the quant basic videos
Yeah.
help you?
So they definitely did. The concept is the same, right? Like ratio proportion or anything else, any other concept is the same as what you've learned. I think what really was the difference in helping me solve it is the approach. Because in school you would do it like it wouldn't matter if you took like a longer approach or you did thoda time laga ke one question. That
Correct.
didn't matter so much in an exam, but over here where time is of the essence, like you have this 2.5 minute like cut off to sort of solve one question. I think that that approach and how to solve it quicker, how to minimize on my calculations, or sort of not take the algebra route. In the beginning, I would just take the algebra route for everything, but that it just leads to lengthy equations and having to solve like a quadratic, which is not the best use of my time. So I think what helped me, the quant basics helped me sort of understand the concepts and understand like certain formulas or certain like concepts that you can use to quickly solve something rather than having to take variables and going through a very long process. So that's what that helped me with. And then after that, going on to the app and the courses that like the classes that Sandeep sir would take, I think doing the pre-work before.
Hmm.
And it used to take me about 5 minutes per question, but then seeing how quickly he did it in the class, which was
Correct.
it just 30 seconds. Um, so just to get that, I think was a major difference between school and this.
Absolutely. Also, do share your insights on the data insights portion. How did you go about it?
So the data insights was honestly something that I thought would not be as difficult as it actually turned out to be.
Okay.
And this is something that I've heard from multiple people, that the data insights section is extremely tricky. I think my main concern on the DI was time management. While it seemed like just 20 questions, I think even in my my start initial mocks, I struggled with that section. I struggled with time management specifically on DI because I didn't realize that I was spending so much time like reading and going back to the question and going back to the things like that. But I think on that also, it was just practice for me. I know the portal had so much on DI. They had IR post work, pre work, IR marathon, as well as the topic wise and the sectional. So I think just doing all of that helped me increase my speed. Because I mean, I was anyway doing the concepts in quant and
Hmm.
verbal.
Correct. So, did you go through the questions as in, did you maintain an error log in the process? Did you revise some of the questions? Because this has been an issue with a lot of students, and
Yeah,
that's why I'm taking it here.
yeah.
That, some of the students, they go through, let's say, a test only once, and they do not analyze their mistakes or their strong areas, the areas in which they are strong at. So, what would be your advice to that?
So my advice would be to maintain an error log. That's very essential. Go back and review every test you've done. For me personally, what worked is writing down the questions I got wrong. So if there was a quant question on a test, I would write down the question and write down the correct answer after when I saw that I've done it wrong. Same for DI. I would take down the question, write down the correct answer. Because what happens is that the approach that's used in many of these questions is similar across like a certain group. So if you write it down, that's sort of like it gets embedded in your subconscious. So when you see a similar question, you can just apply that later much more easily. And I think that's something that has worked for me. With verbal, I wouldn't write it down because honestly, verbal I loved solving, so it was not that much of a pain point.
Yeah, but
Um,
but still, do share your journey with respect to the verbal portion.
with respect to the verbal, what happened was that when I was doing the course itself, like the live course as well as the pre-recorded classes, like the recorded classes only because I was doing the self-paced. So I wasn't making too many mistakes while doing the pre-work for the classes, but when I actually got to the portal, it ended up being a lot more mistakes than I anticipated. So I would definitely go back and review each and every question. I wouldn't write it down, but I would definitely read through the solution for each of them and try to understand the reasoning behind why what I have marked is wrong.
So I've also seen in some of the students that when they practice, as in we have seen this query a couple of times wherein a student is saying that, sir, I'm getting like an 85% or a 90% accuracy in verbal, let's say in RC or in CR. But when I'm taking the mocks, I'm not getting the desired accuracy.
Yeah.
Was it the same case with you?
Exactly the same case for me. I think with the mocks, I think it was just added pressure with the time. When I was solving the PDFs, I was not hurried, I was not stressed. It's also very much a psychological management um, game, right? Because you're on a very tight timer and you need to complete those questions because then there's a heavy penalty if you don't complete the questions. Um, so I think definitely what worked over there is to like I would take deep breaths before every section. Like in the little pause, I would do a little bit of deep breathing to sort of get into a calmer state of mind. And then go ahead with it. But with verbal, I think what also helped is going back. like identifying which type of CR and which type of RC I am most lacking in. Like for me, I realized that I was struggling a little bit with inference with CR. So I went back and did like all of those questions from the topic wise PDFs that were given, the topic wise in the class session. Similarly, I was struggling a little bit, like I was struggling with flow, I was struggling with inference. So I went back and did those specifically. Like I did like so many of them in one go that it became better.
Okay. And with respect to RC, did you face any challenges?
So I think RC was one place, touchwood, that I did not face many problems at all. Yeah.
Wow. So what could be your strategy for the students in dealing with the reading comprehension part?
Go through the passage first. Like it's never looking at the question and then going back to the passage. I don't think that helps because you're wasting time. You have this thing in your mind where you're looking for that specific answer and you're missing other details. So definitely always read the passage first, and go through the octave process the best that you can in that time frame. Like look at if there's an opinion, highlight that opinion because it is very likely that it will come up as a question of a suggestion. And if like always identify the contradiction points, the tone. So I think those are things that help me, that like just take time to go through the passage before you even get to the question, because after that 4 questions become very easy to solve.
Also, did you get a chance, or was there were there any times when you had to go through the passage again, the second reread?
Yeah, not specifically for me because I typically have a higher, like I feel like I have a higher retention power. I don't have to go back and read it twice because I can remember exactly where I've read something. So for me, it was relatively easy to do that. But definitely, if there's a question and I know exactly where that answer is, I would read that passage again, like that paragraph at least.
Got your point. Got your point. And did you also make any notes along the way while you were solving RC questions?
No, I didn't make any notes for verbal. It was just reading and comprehension. I honestly didn't face too much problem in the verbal part, so I didn't like
Absolutely.
make
And
yeah.
I'm just asking, a few
Uh,
questions so that it
Yeah,
helps
yeah.
other students who are.
I personally didn't make notes for that, but I definitely made notes for DI. Because it's a lot of tabs. Like even in the multi-source reasoning, I think there's like 3 tabs. So it becomes very tough if you have to keep going and switching between tabs.
Absolutely. All right. Let's talk about the exam experience.
Yeah.
Before going into the exam experience, I would like to ask how many, let's say, full length mocks have you taken? How many sectional tests have you taken?
All of them from the portal. I completed each and every one of them from the portal, and after that, I did the official mocks, and I then looked for other free mocks that are available, like GMAT Club's mock, or like other platforms that provide a free mock, like my Gosh or Manhattan Prep. Wherever there was a free mock, I did it. And I think that really helped because I did so many. I did at least 20, including top one's own mocks.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Let's talk about, the exam experience. How did you, how did you go about, the exam?
Yeah. So I was firstly confused about whether I should do it at home or I should go and do it at the center. So I actually reached out to Priyansha from Topan to help me with this. And she said that definitely do it at the center because like ISB and IIMs, they don't take home scores. So which is why that was a clear choice. I just went ahead and did it at the center. I did it in Delhi itself. And that I think was a really good experience, honestly. It was very quiet. I need to have peace and quiet to solve an exam. It was very well done. And I think because I've done so many mocks with the same interface, I was not phased at least by the interface and having to like go through so many slides and click on questions. So other than that, it was pretty good. And all the prep I've done, I think I was just a lot more confident in the exam versus the diagnostic mock that I did in right at the beginning of my starting my mocks. Then I was scared at home, but I was not as scared at the center itself.
Absolutely. How did you go about the sections? Let's talk about the sections. What was the first section?
I followed Quant, DI, and Verbal. I left Verbal at to the end because I knew I could do it. Even at the end, I knew that I would not feel pressure
Hmm.
with Verbal because it had been a strong point across my mocks. And I started with Quant because that is the section I felt most nervous about, based on my prep. Then DI in the middle, and then Verbal.
So, how was your experience while dealing with quant questions in the examination?
Pretty good. The quant questions were not that tough. I could have done better on the quant section, is what I believe. I know my score dropped, even though out of the total 21 questions, when I looked at my score report, I only got 2 wrong. But I think my percentile dropped because I edited the first answer itself.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's where I think I could have done better. I think it was just the first question of the whole exam, so I was a little jittery, and that particular question phased me in the beginning, and I was losing time, so I moved on. But when I went back to it during review, it turned out to be actually a really simple question. I was just nervous. So I think that is one thing that actually could have been better on the quant section.
What I usually advise students is right before taking the examination, let's say
Yeah.
1 or 2 hours. or 3 hours before, you just solve a couple of questions, let's say 5 quant questions,
Yeah.
you know, 5 data insight questions, and let's say a few RC and CR questions, so that you are in flow. And
Yeah.
whenever you're looking at, let's say, even if it's the first question of quants, it wouldn't be the first question that you're
For
solving
yes.
that day. I think that works.
Yeah, I think that is something that is definitely a great tip, and I should have done that. And I know that's why that section, even though I've been feeling good about it so far, was like marked lower.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's talk about the data insight section.
Yeah, honestly, with DI, I had just gone with loads of practice and I was just hoping to do the best I can in that section because that was my weakest. So my strongest was verbal, followed by quant, and then at the end was DI. But I think it was just that after quant, I was feeling good about the section because it went relatively okay. I knew I had not made too many actual mistakes. Like no matter the percentile, I knew that my absolute number of mistakes was pretty low in the quant section. So I was feeling in a better frame of mind than that first quant question that I'd started. So
Got
based on that, I was more relaxed. And I think I just like in the middle, I just did a little bit of deep breathing in that 30-second pause. And then moved on with that section. I tried to time myself like very religiously.
it.
If I was spending more than 4 minutes on one question, it had to move on because some questions take like lesser time than the others. But I
Absolutely.
know that multi-source, like
And
I
yeah,
it takes more time. So if I was spending more time, I bookmarked it and moved ahead and came back to it later.
got it. And was there any challenging question in the data insights part?
Some of the data sufficiency questions were tricky. I still don't know what the correct answers are to what I've gotten wrong because some of the data sufficiency questions were tricky, and I think one multi-source reasoning was a little bit tricky. I don't exactly remember what my score was on each of those, but I definitely remember thinking that this is confusing.
Got it. So any tips for solving multi-source reasoning questions?
Firstly, make notes of what is there on each tab. Like at least you're not getting confused. If not making notes of what exactly the content is, make notes of what is there on each tab. Like what is the category of information that's present on each tab. Suppose sometimes one tab is just like a price list of items. So make a note saying price list on second tab. Because when there's a question that asks you for prices, you're not trying to find the price list again and again through each tab. So just I think that helps with like segmenting your time a lot better.
And did the sorting option, did it work for you? Did
The
you use it?
sorting, I think the sorting option is the best feature on the whole test. It just makes your life so much easier. And also just keep in mind that there's a calculator. Sometimes you tend to forget during the whole section that there is a calculator and you start doing calculations yourself. This is something that happened to me. I would forget that there's a calculator option available. Just in the flow of things, I would start solving myself. But realize that you can save, like just remember that you can save so much time by just using that calculator, especially in DI.
Absolutely. That's a nice suggestion. Let's also talk about the verbal section. You scored 100 percentile. No mistakes?
One mistake, the last question. Felt very bad about it.
Cool, cool. Let's talk about the verbal section.
Yeah.
How was it?
Verbal section was actually pretty good. Very easy. I went through it. I still had a lot of time left, and I still had I had bookmarked a lot of questions just because I was double guessing myself and I wanted to recheck. So I spent like at least 10 minutes at the end just going through each and every question so many times to make sure that the answer is correct. But other than that, the verbal section was pretty easy, very similar to the mocks actually. Um, so, I mean, I think if you do all the mocks that are present, at least on the portal and any free ones that you can get, you will be well prepared. And also the sectional tests, I think those really helped.
Absolutely. That's a nice suggestion. What could be your advice, to the fellow aspirants that are preparing?
Um,
Tanaya's advice.
my advice would be write down the questions you're getting wrong. I think that really helps. Writing something down really helps you in remembering it later. So write down what you're getting wrong. I have two thick notebooks full of questions that I have gotten wrong. And I think I just flipped through them like a day or two before my exam to sort of like see if I remembered what I'd gotten wrong, like where I was going wrong. And I did because I'd written it down. So I think that is one thing. Secondly, solve every question that's given on the PDFs, solve the entire portal because I think that really helps. There are so many tests available that it really helps you prep for the actual exam. That is I think that would be my two main advice to do. And also, like the quant videos, watch the whole video. Like sometimes I would just watch the questions that I was getting wrong and not watch the whole video that Sandeep sir was taking with explaining each and every question. But I went back and rewatched those videos all over again fully. And then I made notes. And I think that helps because you may have gotten a question correct, but your approach might be 4 minutes long, while sir's approach is just 10 seconds. So I think just definitely watch those videos no matter if you've gotten the question right or wrong.
That's a nice suggestion. Yeah, this has also been a problem with a lot of students wherein they are just focusing on where they are getting,
Yeah.
those questions wrong or what are their weaker areas. But in order to get the best out of those videos, I would also recommend to watch the whole video, make notes so that you don't have to watch it again.
Yeah. I think that is a mistake I also made, but I went back and watched it, and then I realized how beneficial it actually is. Even for verbal, I think there were a couple of videos like like my weaker points in verbals. I went and watched those videos all over again fully. So I think that also helped.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So, any future plans?
My future plans right now is that I want to complete some years of work experience. So I'm currently at 2 full years, and I want to do at least one more. So next year is when I will be applying to MBA programs or MBA programs. I am still deciding, but I think mostly an MBA with a focus on social impact is what I want to do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You have got clarity over what you want to do, and that's a brilliant thing. And thank you for giving us your precious time. And congratulations from the entire team at Top 1%. It was lovely talking to you, Tanaya.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone at Top 1%. I think the course is great, and I think that is the main reason that I got to where I am right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanaya. All
Bye.
right. You have a nice day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.